Hey everyone, Brian Rundle. It is Black and White with Brian Rundle and Lana Quest. Tonight it is just me, the host, Brian Rundle. I hope everybody is having a good night. As you can see, I'm wearing my Miami Hurricanes gear. College football is upon us. I am extremely excited about that. I'm always excited about football season, of course, which I'm sure a lot of you out there are, but some of you probably just do not care about it. And I know that's why you're not here for football. Maybe some of you are, and if you have any football comments, I certainly would love to hear them. But today we are going to start out the show. Donald Trump is in more controversy with our military, and this continues to happen over and over and over again. And there have been almost too many instances now to where it is quite obvious that he does not respect the military the way he wants everybody to believe that he respects them. He just doesn't. He uses them as a prop, basically, because he knows that this is the stance that you have to take being on the Republican side, that you are this patriot, that you love our military. Donald Trump absolutely does not love the military. He does not care about them. In fact, in some respects, he's sickened by them. But let's get to the story that just happened. The Trump campaign, of course, he was at the Arlington National Cemetery the other day, basically as a photo op, and not because he cared about the military. He knows he's already getting a lot of heat from people in the military from what he said last week about the Congressional Medal of Honor being the same as getting the Congressional Medal of Freedom. And so, I mean, I don't know how many more times we've got to go through this nonsense with this guy, but so anyway, he was at the Arlington National Cemetery, and a scuffle ensued, and his team pushed through an employee there who was a female after she was trying to stop them because it is illegal to take pictures at the cemetery site for any political reasons. So, but the Trump campaign tells Axios, this is a report from Axios, it's weighing options as to whether or not to release the footage of an altercation with Arlington National Cemetery officials. Why would you not release the footage if everything exonerates you? I mean, and we all know Donald Trump and we know this team. It would have already been out by now had it exonerated him. But the fact that they are not releasing this footage is telling. I mean, they were at fault. The cemetery is sacred ground for hundreds of thousands of American families. A cemetery worker confronted the president's team on Monday to enforce rules against using settings for political purposes. These are the events that have followed since. An Army spokesman confirmed in a statement Thursday that an employee was abruptly pushed aside when trying to ensure adherence to the site's rules. And this is what they posted, or a part of what they posted. Participants in the August 26th ceremony and the subsequent Section 60 visit were made aware of federal laws, Army regulations, and DoD policies, which clearly prohibit political activities on cemetery grounds. The spokesperson also added that the incident was unfortunate, and it is also unfortunate that the ANC employee and her professionalism has been unfairly attacked. Apparently, they have come out and said that she had some sort of mental issues, and that's what sparked this whole thing. The statement also confirmed the employee decided not to press charges, adding that the matter is now closed. Reports are also that she did not want to press charges because she's afraid of the pushback and the retaliation that she would get from these MAGA nuts. Cemetery officials told Trump's team that he could come in with his personal capacity and bring personal aides, but not campaign staff. The cemetery employee tried to enforce the rules and provided to her, enforce the rules as provided to her by blocking Trump's team from bringing cameras to the graves of U.S. service members killed in recent years. A larger male campaign aide insisted the camera was allowed and pushed past the cemetery employee, leaving her shocked. The cemetery worker also confronted Trump's aides, won't press charges because she fears pursuing the matter could subject her to retaliation from Trump supporters. The Trump campaign says that it did have permission from for a photographer, and a cemetery spokesman tells Axios that federal law prohibits political campaign or election-related activities within the Army, national military cemeteries to include photographers. So again, we kind of mentioned this on our last show on Tuesday night, that there's enough evidence now that Donald Trump does not respect the military. We had, just before he was even elected as president, he disparaged the service of John McCain. John McCain was a war hero in this country, and he said he likes his war heroes that weren't captured. And then you have military people that voted for him subsequent to that comment. And that, I mean, I can't figure out why you could be so disparaging toward somebody who gave their life up for this country and said he's not a hero because he got captured. That is beyond the pale of disgusting. You remember he also got into the fight with the Khan family. He was battling back and forth with them about the service of their son that passed away. It's also confirmed by the general that worked in his administration, John Kelly, that he called service people and military people suckers and losers. He's questioned, why would they ever go into this? What's in it for them? And that leads to that to him calling them suckers and losers. He could have gone to a World War I memorial in France. That's basically why he was there. One of the reasons why he was there. And it was raining outside, so he decided he wasn't going to go. And then, of course, we already mentioned how he compared the Congressional Medal of Freedom to a medal that is given to military men and women who sacrifice their lives, sacrifice their bodies for this country, and not only compared it, but also said, in some respects, it's better to get the Congressional Medal of Honor. And you could try to explain to me all day what he really meant, but even if he didn't mean, who says this? Is there not part of you that just goes, yeah, we should have just left that one alone and not even mentioned that at all? So I don't know. I'm hoping, and I actually, just from what I am seeing on social media, and again, I understand social media is not the end all be all of everything, and it doesn't tell us everything that's going on, because social media certainly can be a fantasy land in many respects. But I do see a lot of people, TikTokers and people on social media, who are not thrilled at all with Donald Trump and what happened here in Arlington and what he said last week about the Congressional Medal of Honor. So we'll see what happens, and we'll see if that plays any effect and if it makes any difference in the election. Right now, things seem to be looking up for Kamala Harris. Everything seems to be rolling. Everything seems to be going in the right direction. We have her first interview will be tonight on CNN at 9:00. So I'll be interested to watch that, and I'm sure we'll have clips of that when that is completed. Speaking of interviews, Donald Trump is going around and he is being interviewed. A lot of the interviews that he is sitting down to, and I know there's a lot of criticism about Kamala Harris and her not being interviewed and her not taking interviews. She's going to start her interview tonight. I mean, first of all, number one, the woman's been on the campaign trail for a month. So, she's got to put together her whole plan. She's got to put together her policies. She has to put everything together before she could just go out and do interviews. And Lana had pointed this out in the last couple of shows. So, again, we're in a political climate now that no matter what, you just have to find something to attack. And that's been politics throughout our whole life. But some of the attacks are now getting to the point where they're just so ridiculously stupid that if the biggest attack on Kamala Harris is that she hasn't done an interview yet, ever since being the nominee for, or the potential nominee, and now the official nominee for just about a month, I'll take that all day. If that's our biggest complaint and one of our biggest uh, things that you have against her, I think she's going to wind up doing even better if that's the best that you can come up with. But Donald Trump goes to a lot of his safe spaces, and nobody calls that part out. I know a lot of people are saying Kamala Harris, first of all, she's sitting down with her running mate, which pretty much every president that I can remember sat down with a dual interview with their running mate, and this should be no different. But and I know a lot of people are saying, well, she ran to CNN. I think we pointed out on the last show, you could call CNN the far left arm of the Democratic Party. That's simply just not true. CNN is a news organization that tries to get as much money and viewers as they possibly can. They sensationalize their news. They're over the top with their news, but they are not a propaganda arm for the left like Fox News and Newsmax is for the right. It's not even close. It's not even on the same level of being the same thing. But Donald Trump is also doing interviews with people like Dr. Phil, and he's going on a lot of these shows that will appeal to younger men, Theo Vaughn, and some other podcasters that I've never heard of in my life. Tim Pool is another one of these guys that is, I guess, big on that side of the aisle. Maybe he's trying to get a few extra of these guys to vote for him. I think those people are already on board with him, whether or not they're going to register to vote, because I personally think, and I don't know this for sure, but this is just an educated guess at best, that a lot of the people that listen to the Joe Rogans and the Theo Vaughns and Tim Pools are they want to be engaged in the conversation, but they're not necessarily registered to vote. In fact, I know people who love being part of these conversations that listen to these guys, but they're not even voting. So, and I suspect that there's a lot of people out there just like the people that I know. And so I don't know how much that is getting extra voters, because that's what Donald Trump needs. He needs more voters. He doesn't need the same voters. The same voters are already coming back. In fact, I'm not sure 100% of those same voters are coming back. Actually, it'd probably be impossible for all 100% of those voters to come back to Donald Trump. I'm not saying that they're necessarily going to move over to Kamala Harris, but I will say between the two candidates, I only know of one side that have organized groups that are called Republicans for Harris. I don't know of anything called Democrats for Trump. I don't know of anything for independents for Trump or anybody for Trump other than his already established base. But anyway, he sat down with Dr. Phil, and again, I don't know. These are the people that we are considering as journalists and the people that we need to sit down to get our news nowadays is just still stunning to me. But Dr. Phil is one of them now, I guess. I don't know what his audience is. First of all, is he even on TV anymore? Does Dr. Phil exist on television? And if not, where is Dr. Phil? He's doing interviews. Is he just like a YouTube guy now? I don't know. If anybody knows that's watching, or if you're watching later on the clips, if you could comment in the comments below, that would be great. But I'm not really sure where Dr. Phil is, but I know he is interviewing Donald Trump. And in this first clip, Donald Trump's about as delusional as you could possibly be. I know Dr. Phil likes to play a therapist on television, even though he's not really a therapist, but he likes to play one. And this would have been a great time to give Donald Trump a little therapy. In fact, during the clip, it looks like he tried to for a second, but Donald Trump believes that if there was a certain judge that was judging the election and that was overlooking the election, that he would win the state of California. And even more batshit crazy is the judge that he says, if he were in charge, he would make Donald Trump. He would ensure that Donald Trump was the winner of California, because that's what the real results say.
California, I gave a speech. I had a crowd so big. I said, "There's no way I could lose California," but automatically they mark it down if you're a Republican as a loss.
This guy thinks crowd size indicates whether or not you're going to win an election. Now, the one thing I'll give him or anybody else that brings it up is that in 2016, there was this sort of movement that was happening, this ground swelling of Trump signs that you would have never thought you would have saw. You had people who, when they were being polled, they weren't necessarily answering Donald Trump, but they were definitely voting for Donald Trump, because back then it was, for them, embarrassing to say that they were going to vote for a guy that everybody was laughing at. Literally everybody was laughing at, including myself. So there was this groundswell that you felt, and he had these huge rallies and he had a bunch of people there. And I think he might still be associating that. And he thinks that that is the reason why he would still be winning this time. However, if you look at his rallies now, there's plenty of video evidence that shows you can pan around and see a lot of empty seats. So I'm not really sure what he's talking about, but let's get back to this delusional clip.
That you lose by 5 million votes. I said, 5 million votes. I guarantee, if Jesus came down and was the vote counter, I would win California, okay? In other words, if we had an honest vote counter, a really honest vote counter, I do great with the Hispanics, great. I mean, at a level that no Republican's ever done. But if we had an honest vote counter, I would win California.
You think so?
Oh, I think so. I do.
Even Dr. Phil can't believe it. And like I said, this would be a perfect time to start injecting some of that phony therapy that he likes to play on TV. But of course, he's not going to do that. He's another guy that is enamored with Donald Trump, even though he tries to pretend. If you heard him on interviews on other channels, he pretends like he's not. There's a lot of these guys who pretend like they don't love Donald Trump, or they don't love the idea of Donald Trump. They might not necessarily love him as a person. They might even, just look at the face of Dr. Phil. He's looking right at him and going, "You dumb motherfucker. You're just so stupid. But I cannot have trans men transitioning into women and beating up my daughter in sports," which does not happen.
I see it. I go around California. They have Trump signs all over the place. It's a very dishonest. Everything is mail-in. They send out 38 million ballots. I think it is around 36, 38 million ballots. They send them.
Yeah, they send them. So again, if Jesus was in charge of the elections, Donald Trump would win California. Now, it is my understanding from a lot of religious people that Jesus is in charge and he is controlling a lot of things. So he is yet to step into any of these elections, unless maybe he was part of 2016, saw what happened for 4 years and said, Jesus, I called himself out and said, I may have made a mistake here, because this was an absolute disaster. And if Jesus has anything to do with the next one, the win from Kamala Harris over him is going to be even bigger than the one that Joe Biden had. But this next clip, Dr. Phil is asking Donald Trump about the assassination attempt on his life. And Donald Trump, again, so Jesus did not inject himself into the election, but guess who injected himself into saving his life?
So,
is there a purpose?
Well,
is there a reason you think you were spared?
I mean, the only thing I can think is that God loves our country and he thinks we're going to bring our country back. He wants to bring it back. It's so bad right now what's happening when you look at the crime, the horrible things that are happening inside our country, and it can be solved. It can be solved fairly quickly. It has to be God.
Look, I'm not a religious guy. I admitted that before. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in any of that stuff. However, I am somebody that is I'm pro people embracing their religion. I am pro people using religion as a way to make themselves and this world and their lives better. I'm all for that. I would back that up a million times. I would never disparage anybody's religion. I wouldn't I wouldn't make fun of anybody about believing in God. But what Donald Trump is doing here is really disgusting. I mean, it's truly disgusting. He has absolutely no belief in God. He does not care about religion. He doesn't care about you. He doesn't care about any of this stuff. And I hear so many people say that Donald Trump, we're going to vote for him because he's a godly man. The guy who sleeps with porn stars, the guy who's cheated on all of his wives, the guy who is a convicted felon, the guy who was found liable for sexual assault. I can name a million different things, and you're telling me this is the face of the man that you want to use as your evangelical hero is absolutely insane to me. It makes no sense. And maybe the only way they make sense of it is by, I know they say this God works in mysterious ways. So it's very, in the Bible, God sent down a particular character or person or whatever it is, he wasn't the perfect person, but he actually came through. I know these are the things they use, but I don't know how many times Donald Trump has to prove over and over and over again he's not a godly man. The same way he's got to prove over and over and over again he doesn't love our military men and women. He disparages them constantly. How he is a great businessman. He has proven over and over and over again he's a terrible businessman. What are they missing? What are the people who still are in the camp of this guy who thinks he's so great at everything? What are they missing? How are they not seeing this when everything is in black and white? He was flat out asked, what's your favorite Bible verse? And that just absolutely blew his mind up. He had no idea how to answer that. He looked like a fool. I mean, anybody who truly loved God and Jesus, they will tell you right off the bat. They'll probably name 5 or 6 Bible verses that they loved. He couldn't name anything. He just couldn't. And he is using these people. And he also is doing it in the way of saying God saved his life. Now, in the previous clip, he said that if Jesus were counting the votes, that he would win. Well, again, I bring up the point. If God saved his life from a bullet, why did God not help him in the election? Especially if it were stolen. Why didn't God just step right in and go, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm not going to have unfair shit on my earth. That ain't happening. So I'm going to come down just like I did that bullet. I'm going to make sure, even though the bullet ricocheted or whatever it did and killed another innocent human being, I don't know how you explain that one, but I just don't understand how God stopped bullets to help from killing you because he wants you to win the election, but he didn't help you win the last election. Help me make sense of any of this. Finally, Dr. Phil did this thing that a lot of the interviewers do with this guy, is they pretend like he loves his family, which he doesn't. I'm positive that Donald Trump has some sort of, because he's a father and he gave birth to these children, there is some sort of connection there, but he strikes me as the kind of guy that if he could have gotten rid of all of them, that he probably would have, except for maybe Ivanka. He probably looked at a lot of them as an inconvenience. In fact, there's interviews, where he had said Melania's kid, Melania's son, didn't even claim him as his own. There's interviews where he says when he comes home, he expects the wife to have everything ready for him and all that stuff. But this is Dr. Phil, for some reason, asking him, did you hug your kids after this attempt? I mean, did this really bring it home for you? And again, a garbled, just batshit crazy answer from Donald Trump.
Your kids extra hard? I mean, has it changed you?
A lot of people ask me, and a lot of people say, like, have you developed any fear of, doing this? Like, because being president is a dangerous job. It's much more dangerous than a race car driver or than anything. It's probably the most dangerous profession, if you think about it. Just go up and down the list. So
Dr. Phil is pretending to take this guy seriously.
Numerous left early or got hit. It's a very dangerous job. I never realized how dangerous, but
he always finishes it up with that. I never realized. I mean, the economy, that's a tough one. I never realized. I never realized this. I never realized that. But he was asked whether or not he hugged his children and mentioned absolutely nothing about his children and went on to some crazy rant about how being president is more dangerous than a race car driver, or just go down the list and blah, yada, yada, yada. I don't know many jobs that have a full security detail on you at all times, 24 hours, 7 days a week. I'm not saying that being a president cannot be dangerous, because you do have a lot of kooky nuts out there, including the registered Republican who was a Trump supporter, who somehow got on the top of that roof with nobody seeing him and shooting down at him during one of his rallies. I don't know. That's all crazy. So anyway, real quick, there was another report that came out on because I talked to a lot of people, and they are so concerned about the debt and the deficit. And oh my gosh, Joe Biden just exploded the debt and the deficit. However, if you go back and you try to, and I say this, try to point out to them that Donald Trump's, the debt and the deficit was double the amount of Joe Biden's, it doesn't matter. Joe Biden's way worse than Donald Trump. But it's in black and white. You could see in real numbers that the same outlets report over and over. Nope, doesn't matter. Joe Biden's still worse for me. Okay, well, you were complaining about the debt, the deficit. I just pointed out that Donald Trump doubled in 4 years what Joe Biden did in 4 years, and it doesn't matter to them. But there was a group that came out and that they compared what the debt and deficit would be and the budgets between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. And I found a lot of this interesting. So let's go over what they came up with. Donald Trump's campaign promises would send the national debt soaring much faster than Kamala Harris's would, per two new analysts from the Penn Wharton budget model. Both of them increase the deficit relative to the current baseline. Keeping Trump's campaign promises would increase the national debt by $5.8 trillion over 10 years, while Harris's would cost $1.2 trillion, which is nearly 4 times less than Donald Trump's. The biggest difference between the two candidates is the question of what happens to Trump's tax cuts, which are due to expire at the end of 2025. Trump would extend them, but Harris wouldn't. Extending the individual income tax cuts would cost $3.4 trillion over 10 years. Doing the same for the corporate income tax cuts would bring the total to over $4 trillion. So I don't know if a lot of people understand this, because people keep asking, how's Kamala Harris going to pay for all this stuff? How's she going to pay? The way Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and now it seems like the Democratic platform, the way they plan on paying for the stuff for the American people And real quick, too, let's go back to a lot of people saying, we're sending all this money to Ukraine. When are we going to do something for the American people? Well, they do plan on doing something for the American people. And how are they going to pay for it? How they pay for it is they raise the corporate tax rate and taxes on the ultra wealthy. And by doing that, they take a lot of the tax money and use that to pay for the things for everybody else. That's the way it should be. Well, why should they be raising taxes on the ultra wealthy? It's not about raising taxes on them. It's about putting back where it was, because you have people like Donald Trump who continue to cut these taxes for the ultra wealthy and for the corporations. They were, over time, these taxes continue to get cut down and down and down. And in this report, I'm going to go over this here in a minute, Trump wants to cut them again. So the more you cut taxes for the ultra wealthy and the rich, the less American people get. And that's all they care about. That's what they want. They want more money in their pockets and damn everybody else. But you know what they'll do? They'll fool us all by throwing in stupid culture wars. So we're now fighting about that while they're all laughing at us by taking and putting more money in their pockets. That's just how it works. And if anybody doesn't agree with that, explain to me the difference. Explain to me what I said is not true. But anyway, Harris, by contrast, wants to increase the corporate tax income rate by to 28%. I believe right now it's 22%. And she wants to put it up to 28%, which would raise $1.1 trillion for the public fiscal money there. That's more than enough to pay for the cost of increasing the child tax credit to $6,000 for newborns, which she wants to do. That's another thing for the American families. For expanding the earned income tax credit, the extending the tax credit that currently exists for health insurance premiums, and for providing down payment support for first-time homebuyers. Between them, those policies would cost around $600 billion. Harris has one other very large proposed expense, however, which is raising the child tax credit to $3,000 for children over 5 years old and $3,600 for children age 5 years and younger. It currently stands at $2,000 and is set to drop to $1,000 in 2026. The policy would cost $1.7 trillion over a decade. The Wharton study concludes that the Trump proposals would increase the national debt by 9.3% above its current trajectory in 2034 and by 12.7% by 2054. The equivalent numbers for the Harris proposals are 4.4% and 7.7% respectively. So again, these are things that people want to ignore because we need to take sides and we need to be convinced that Donald Trump is better for the economy than Kamala Harris or Democrats would be, which is really ridiculous because if you go back and you just look at the historical facts and figures, let's go back to Reagan up until now. Reagan until now, the Democrats have created, and Bill Clinton brought this up the other day, and it is absolutely true, they've created 50 million jobs between Clinton, Obama, and Biden. Between Reagan, Bush 1, and Bush 2, you know how many jobs they've created? 1 million. 1 million jobs between those three presidents, where the other three created 50 million jobs. In the economy, Bill Clinton left office with a budget surplus. One of the only times in the history of the country that a president left another president with more money than he came in with. And Bill Clinton had to take over, a budget deficit. So he turned that deficit into a surplus. Obama had to take over one of the worst economies in the history of this country, the worst economy since the Great Depression. And what he did was, of course, he had to spend a ton of money in his first term. But when he left office, everything economically went up. Jobs, GDP growth, everything went up under him. When Trump left office, again, I will point out that when Trump left office, economically not necessarily his fault, because COVID hit, and no matter who the president was, they were going to have to suffer with whatever economic damage was done because of COVID, because it didn't just happen here in the United States, it happened everywhere across the world. And since then, since Joe Biden has taken over, we had inflation rates that went up to about 9.1%. It is now down under 3% to 2.9%, which is close to the 2% mark that the Federal Reserve usually wants. However, that 2% may be a little bit higher now, because Joe Biden, during his administration, that wages outpaced inflation. So he basically went through the entire COVID recovery by adding jobs, by for 2 straight years had unemployment under 4%. That had not happened in over 50 years. That was the longest run in 50 years of unemployment being under 4%. Wages were higher, and we never hit that recession. Now, people, I don't know if people understand the word recession. They just like to throw it out there and go, we have a recession. We don't have a recession. A recession would have required a ton of job losses and things like that. The job losses never happened. In fact, we continued to add jobs over and over and over again. For 2 straight years, unemployment was under 4%. So, this idea that Donald Trump would be better for the economy is outrageously ridiculous. Donald Trump took over an economy that was already on a trajectory of going up and up and up, and he did absolutely nothing until he put in his Trump tax cuts for the rich. And then once that happened, we exploded the debt, exploded the deficit, and now stuff like that comes back to bite us. So, again, if what I am saying is incorrect, explain to me how it's not. Explain to me exactly what policies Donald Trump put in to make the economy that you think is so great. Because I still have people arguing with me. I don't care what the numbers say. I go back and look at my paychecks, and my paychecks were much better during the Trump administration, during the Biden administration. Part of me believes that you're making that up. Some of you are. You're making that up, because there's no way you went back and looked at 2018, 2019 at your paychecks, and you're looking at them now. And again, what was your job? What is your job that your paychecks were better in 2018 as opposed to 2022? Unless you're on commission, then what exactly changed in your job that you wound up getting pay cuts because of it? And why was that because of Joe Biden? Please do your best to explain that to me. I am all ears. Before I get to the next subject here, let's address a couple of the comments. Mike Saddam says, "Oh, shut up, you neo-fascist drivel." Mike does not like my comments. Mike, if you're still here, and I hope you are, welcome to the show. Explain to me exactly what comments you did not like, and I'd be happy to address those. My boy, Little Philosophy, thank you for coming back. I appreciate you, my friend. And he does not agree with almost anything that I say, but he is one of the guys who comes into the comment section. And at least I feel that I have some good rapport with him now. I hope he feels the same, but let's see what he has to say here. Media is actively gaslighting and creating division. More ad hominem fallacies coming from the left side. I disagree with that, but I agree with your first comment. More consumers of media are waking up. Stephen Colbert audience gaffe proves it. That I'm not really sure what you mean there. If you want to explain that, you can. I'm on board with you with media. I don't know if people believe me or if they don't. At this point, I really don't care. But I don't watch cable news. I refuse to watch any of it. I don't watch CNBC or MSNBC, CNN. I certainly don't watch Fox News. I definitely don't watch Newsmax. No, don't get me wrong. I see clips from time to time. I watch a lot of online shows on YouTube that I find informative, and a lot of these shows have clips from these particular news organizations. And when I watch the clips, it reinforces why I don't watch these shows, because they're all absolute garbage. The Stephen Stephen Colbert comment was a jab towards CNN. Again, little philosophy, we might have different philosophies on this, but I don't look at CNN as the left-wing propaganda network like Fox News and Newsmax is for Donald Trump and the right. It just is not. It's not even close to the same thing. You would never hear on CNN, you would never hear any of their anchors allude to the president getting sexually assaulted by generals or people in the room with him or her like you do on primetime Fox News channels. And if you haven't seen it, Jesse Waters alluded to the generals having their way with Kamala Harris. And I know a lot of dudes get very, very defensive because they're like, he didn't mean it that way. You guys are so sensitive. Well, the women on the panel that agree with Jesse Waters on pretty much everything he says instantly reacted because they know exactly what he was trying to do and what he was trying to say, what he was trying to insinuate, his little innuendos for his little immature crowd and the idiot at the end of the table, Greg Gutfeld, laughing at it. We all know what he did and we all know what he meant. You would never see anything like that on NBC or MSNBC or CNN. That stuff doesn't happen. What they do is they try to get as many people and viewers, and they do it by sensationalize their news, by opinionating their news, but they are not a left-wing propaganda for Kamala Harris and for the left. There are people that give opinions that will lean left, but there's also people that give opinions that lean right. Yes, that does happen on Fox, but it is not the same propaganda. Not even close. Just not even close. But it was definitely an innuendo due to Kamala's past, which again, what's her past? That she dated somebody and had sex? And you're also telling me that she got a high position. By the way, if you go back and look when she dated Willie Brown gave her some very low-level job. It didn't make her the Secretary of State, or it didn't make her the Attorney General of California. And if anybody is trying to suggest that the only reason why this woman is at where she's at is because she slept with Willie Brown, that is about as mature and as sensical as anything that you would hear from a third grader. So, if you really believe that, if you really believe, or if that's what you need in order to make yourself feel better about the fact that right now Kamala Harris is kicking the shit out of Donald Trump and she's getting the attention now and she's getting the energy and she's leading in all the polls and she is dominating in donations. If that's what you need to make yourself better, fine. But it's pretty fucking sad. It's really sad if that's what you need to make yourself feel better about the fact that this woman's kicking the shit out of your hero. But I want to go into, we talk about these news clips and we talk about the propaganda arms. I have a clip, this Nancy Mace lady, she's nuts. I mean, she's just nuts. And a lot of these people go on these shows, and I don't even know if they listen to themselves when they are talking out loud. I don't know if what they're saying, if they truly believe it, or are they trying to gaslight? Or are they trying to gaslight themselves? Whatever it is, but she's asked, or she's being asked about Kamala Harris, and she has some just strange response as to why also too she's voting for Donald Trump.
It's a whole gender thing because again and again I was raising with our last panel congressman, men do react differently than women and vice versa, particularly if there are attack lines back and forth.
Right. Well, I'm a woman who's broken a number of glass ceilings over my career, and I understand firsthand, what that means. But I'm voting for Donald Trump because I am a woman, and nothing says, I'm a woman, hear me roar, like having your first national interview sit down with a man by your side. This is an interview for the leader of the free world, and so as a woman, I want to vote for someone who's going to protect women like me who are survivors of rape.
All right, goes on for a little bit longer, but I'm tired of her. I don't like her voice. I don't like what she's saying. She's an idiot. They're doing this thing. Jesse Waters kind of did it the other night. She's doing it this thing too. So this is kind of the new play of what they're going to do is they're going to scare pathetic men into believing that we need a strong man. We need a guy who's going to protect our women. We're going to need, and they're also trying to fool women into believing that we need a tough guy that's going to protect you from being raped. And again, I find this really sad for a few reasons. One, in what way is a president of the United States going to protect you from getting raped? And that is something I don't understand. The other thing is Nancy Mace says she's voting for a guy who was found guilty of sexual all right, let's go back. Found liable for sexual assault. So that's where I get confused. Do these people even know what they're saying? This guy has got to pay out millions of dollars because he was found sexually liable for sexual assault. And she is going to vote for that guy. Again, I go back to how can any military person vote for Donald Trump when there's proof after proof after proof after proof that he doesn't care about you? How is it that religious people vote for Donald Trump when there's proof after proof after proof after proof that he doesn't give a fuck about religion? He doesn't care about religion. He doesn't care about Jesus. He doesn't care about any of that, but he doesn't care about you. So, it just, again, none of this makes any sense to me. I want to stick with the delusional part of this segment that Donald Trump was on stage. I think it was just today. And he is talking about how people love his speeches and how he's just the best speaker. And let's take a look at the clip and we'll talk about it after.
I saw her make a speech. It was so bad. And after they get off, this was one of the greatest performances we've ever seen in our country. With me, I make a speech. I speak for 2 hours. Everybody loves it. I got thousands of people, by the way, outside trying to get in. They never said Trump.
By the way, that is just absolutely not true. Again, we talked about this earlier when he said there's footage of the altercation at Arlington. And if there really was footage and nothing happened and they're not ashamed of anything that happened, they would have released it. This is the, 10th time I've heard this guy saying there's thousands of people lined up outside that they can't get in. Why do they not have their team outside showing the people begging to get in? Why do they not do that? I think I have an answer as to why they don't do that. They don't do that because nobody's outside waiting to get in. In fact, in a lot of these rallies, there's plenty of seats left over.
Trump's a great speaker. I don't even want that, but I must be a great speaker, right? I must. We got thousands of people.
The guy's delusional. Again, he needs to convince himself, because this is Donald Trump too. This is Donald Trump who is panicking, and he knows he's behind. He knows everything's not going as smoothly as he felt it was going about a month ago before Joe Biden dropped out of the race. They got done with that debate and they were pouring the champagne over their head. They were already celebrating the championship. And, what happened since is now he's got to go back to work. And I think mentally he was already prepared to not have to do any work at all. And so now he's got a battle where he is settled in mentally to not go out and have to do any work, to now having to go out and do some work. And this work consists of him trying to convince himself that he's the best speaker, that he's got thousands of people that are outside cheering for him, that he's leading in the polls, that he's getting all this money. I saw the other day that they were showing where Kamala Harris was spending and Donald Trump was spending. It looks like Donald Trump's not even in this race anymore. It looks like he's just kind of given up. I don't know what's going on. A lot of the press conferences that he's been given lately, he is sleeping through them. I mean, he literally is sleeping. He doesn't have any energy. He's not excited. And I think it's because in his mind, he mentally was already sailing to victory. And he mentally was in his head, I get to play golf every day until I'm the victor in November. And then once that happens, I am going to appoint all of my crazy sycophants into all these positions. I'm going to let them run the government, and I'm going to go out and play golf. Every once in a while, take a phone call from a political leader and pretend like I give a shit. But I think now he is in panic mode. He doesn't know how to handle it. So one last really creepy clip, by the way. This was him today. Again, everybody wants to keep projecting creepiness on the left, like they are the child predators and they are the ones who are the pedophiles and all this weird stuff, that they're the ones who are on the Epstein Island. And even though there's plenty of proof after proof after proof that Donald Trump had closer ties with Jeffrey Epstein than anybody else I know, there's only three people. There's three people that were running for president. Two of them were on the Epstein plane. That's Donald Trump and RFK Jr. Kamala Harris, to my knowledge, doesn't even know Jeffrey Epstein. But this is Donald Trump. Just look at this clip. Tell me you're not creeped the fuck out. And I don't know the age of the girl, but it doesn't matter what the age of the girl is. Still creepy.
Great job. What a beautiful young daughter. What a beautiful young daughter.
Oof. That is just staring that girl down and very creepily saying what a beautiful daughter. This is also the guy who has a public court case that was against him that was withdrawn, that him and Jeffrey Epstein raped a 13-year-old girl. So, you know, a lot of people on the right like to use innuendo about Bill Clinton, about a lot of people. And I'm not talking about the Monica Lewinsky thing. That one obviously was wrong and it was terrible. And I will be the first to admit that it changed my opinion of Bill Clinton. I thought he was a great president. I don't think he's a great human being. I thought he had a lot of flaws. Hopefully he worked through those flaws and he is a better person today because of it. But you know, they keep projecting that they're the weirdos that. But Donald Trump was on the Epstein plane. Donald Trump has left several messages with Jeffrey Epstein. Donald Trump has been seen partying with Jeffrey Epstein. He is quoted what a great guy he is and that he likes women a little bit more on the younger side, just like him. So, you know, but they're going to ignore that. Everybody ignores that on the MAGA side. They just ignore it and say that's fake news when there's clear proof of it happening, but we're just going to ignore it. Okay, before we wrap up here, because I do want to get off before the interview on CNN, we were talking about Kamala Harris and her dating Willie Brown, and we talked about the Jesse Water thing. Lil Philosophy at least admitted there was definitely an innuendo due to Kamala's past. I think we talked about that. It was an innuendo. It was strange the way she got to her position, just like with the presidency nomination after her first attempt. I don't understand what was strange about the way she got her nomination. It's unique, and it is not something that happens all the time. It's very, very rare. But it's not strange. There's nothing strange about it. We had a person that was running for president. His name was Joe Biden. And I will go on to say once again that Joe Biden will go down as one of the best and most consequential presidents of my lifetime and of all time. Joe Biden is going to be remembered in a very, very fond way. There's absolutely no question about it in my mind. But anyway, he went through a debate. The debate was a disaster for him. There were a lot of people in the party who were panicking. There were a lot of people on the down ballot tickets on the Democratic side that were panicking. There was a lot of talk with Joe Biden and said that we believe that it would be best if we had a different candidate because we are concerned about the other candidates on the ticket, that they may not, people may not come out and vote for them if you're at the top of the ticket. He took that into consideration and made the most difficult decision any president had ever made, being in that position. Certainly presidents have made way more difficult decisions when it comes to policy and foreign and domestic issues. But when it comes to something like that, he just made a very difficult decision. And he believes that it was best for the party. He still, I believe, does not believe it was best for him. And I'm sure there's a lot about it that he is still pretty bitter about, which he certainly has the right to be. But he dropped out of the race. And this is what you guys were clamoring for the whole time, is that Joe Biden was too old. He doesn't know where he's at. He shouldn't even be in office anymore. Okay, well, you got what you wanted. So he dropped out of the race. And if he would have dropped out of the race and everything was still going the same way as it was for Donald Trump, you wouldn't be hearing a word about Kamala Harris and Willie. I mean, there's still, because people need to be assholes, they still need to find a way to be an asshole. But none of this stuff would be coming up about Kamala Harris not getting any votes. Nobody would give a shit. They would say, if it were a terrible candidate that wasn't resonating and ruminating with the rest of the country, then nobody would give a shit as to whether or not she was, how she got into the nomination. But the way she got in, there's nothing illegal about it, nothing unconstitutional about it. Joe Biden wasn't even the nominee when he dropped out. So again, I don't know what everybody, I do. I know what it's all about. We're reaching. We got to reach. We got to reach for whatever it is that we can, because now we're pissed off because our hero was walking into victory, just walking into victory. And now he's having problems. And I feel bad for our grandpa hero, and I got to give him one big virtual hug. And the way that I do that is I go out and I troll libtards on social media, and I cheer and laugh at Jesse Waters when he says that the potential president of the United States is going to get gangbanged by generals because she can't handle it and she's not tough enough, and we need a tough guy in our lives to defend us. That's about as fucking pathetic as it gets. Back to the comments here. It was strange in the way, okay. There was a video today, as well as Nancy Pelosi says she takes full responsibility for January 6th. No, there wasn't. It was strange to me because it feels like damage control, to be honest, due to Biden's performance, and especially after her first attempt trying to become president. Who gives a shit about her first attempt trying to become president? There are numerous people that ran for president more than once. Joe Biden ran for president 3 times. Guess what happened on his 3rd attempt? He was elected. And again, he's going to go down as one of the best presidents of all time. I don't care what your opinion is of him. From real presidential scholars, when they go back and look at history, they are going to verify that he was one of the best presidents, especially in modern day politics. He will go down as one of the most consequential and best presidents of all time. In fact, when they came out with their top 45 presidents of all time, he came in, he landed, he debuted at number 14. So if he debuted at number 14, I can't wait to see where he goes once the dust settles on his presidency. And I promise you, as time goes on, more and more and more, he's going to be more and more missed, and he is going to be appreciated more. That's my feeling. I hear Nancy Pelosi is the one who got Biden out. Nancy Pelosi certainly probably played a role in that. From some reports that she went in there and she was pretty tough with him. And Joe Biden was saying that he was seeing his internal polls that he was still winning. And Nancy Pelosi, per reports, did not just take his word for it. She demanded that the pollster get on the phone with Joe Biden and say, I want to see these polls. I right now want to see these polls where you're still winning, because Joe, you're not. You're just not. And again, me personally, I still think Joe Biden wins. I think as time goes on and we get closer and closer to the election, people were just not going to vote in this crazy nut. They just weren't. I mean, I know it's hard for a lot of people to believe that are on the MAGA side, because, and I know you're going to say I'm in a bubble, but you're in such a bubble that you don't believe that anything Donald Trump has ever done or said is wrong. You don't believe that he sexually assaulted anybody. You don't believe that he's a convicted felon. You don't believe that he started an insurrection. You don't believe that the election wasn't stolen. So you're going to defend every word, everything that comes out of his mouth. You guys are going to line up like the wicked witches flying monkeys, and you're going to attack. But soon, that wicked witch is about to be melted by fucking Dorothy, and we are going to rid ourselves of this moron once and for all. Chris Cuomo has said that he heard at the DNC from a famous lawyer that the person behind getting Biden to drop out was not Obama, but Pelosi. Yeah, I mean, Nancy Pelosi is probably one of the most powerful politicians of all time. We also could go down and say that she was probably the best House Speaker of all time. And again, I'm not just saying that. There are plenty of people who say that. There are Republicans that will tell you that Nancy Pelosi was possibly the best House Speaker of all time. She got shit done. There is a documentary on Nancy Pelosi. I believe it's on Netflix. And if you want to see how Nancy Pelosi works, if you really do care, or if you really want to, if you really want to be part of a conversation, instead of just spewing out words that you think fit within a narrative that you saw on a meme on Facebook, or that you heard on the Joe Rogan show, or wherever it is that you hear it, if you really care, I would suggest at least watch the documentary and see maybe a different side of Nancy Pelosi, and to see why she was so effective and see why she was so good at her job. I believe that wasn't an insurrection. I actually believe January 6th has complete and much more precedent now. That's absolutely outrageous and absurd. And if you think that going to the Capitol of the United States to stop an election that was 100% safe, 100% fair, then to me, that is about as un-American as it gets. And I'm not sure at all what possible stance that you could have as to say that that was justified and that there's precedent for it now. There's only precedent for it because Donald Trump got a lot of undereducated and uneducated people who are part of the flying monkey army to just go along with whatever he says, and to believe that a lifelong lying con man is your savior, and that if you go along with whatever he says, that your life somehow is going to be better. That definitely is not proven out for anybody. Well, maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe it's proven out for some people, but I'm not really sure exactly what utopia you people think you were living in when Donald Trump was president. I was good. What time is it? 8:33. Usually I want to end these shows by answering some comments that I get in the comment section from, we do these YouTube shows and they go out, and I've said before, there are a lot of clips. Sometimes they get thousands of views, which is good, but it appears as if a lot of the views are from people who absolutely hate me, hate Lana, hate the show, hate every word that comes out of our mouth. And that's okay. I don't mind you guys watching, but it seems to me like they watch maybe 30 seconds of it. They don't listen to the whole thing. And I can tell that in the comments because they'll make a comment about something and you could tell that they didn't watch the entire clip. And that's generally what we get with a lot of people now who are in this game. But this is actually a comment that I got that will prove that the kind of people that are now being involved in these conversations are not exactly ones that you think that would be asked as a guest on any political show, even the smallest of political shows like this YouTube channel. But this comes from, of course, Mud Boss is his name. 3 S's at the end of Mud Boss. Mud Boss says, headboard Harris and wad swallow walls. Anyone stupid enough to vote for those idiots is dumber than they are. Democrats are actually that stupid as to vote for a person whose only claim to fame is the ability to roll on a condom. So this is kind of what we were alluding to earlier. And these are the kind of people now that are part of the political discourse. They are now part of the conversation. And I think in order to answer this question or to respond to this comment properly and to point out as to why people like this are now part of this conversation, we're going to have to go back to the Reagan administration. And during the Reagan administration, there was a gentleman named Newt Gingrich, who I'm sure you have heard of at this time. But Newt Gingrich was somebody that got a lot of mentoring from people and taught them certain tricks through politics. Now, politics has always been full of tricks, and politics has always been some smoke and mirrors here and there and some jostling and trying to do everything you can to get your party in power. Well, one of the tricks that he learned is that you don't necessarily need to tell the truth. If you just get people to believe you, then that's all that really matters. If you could get certain groups out there to believe that you care about them, i.e. the religious people, that you care about abortion, which Donald Trump clearly doesn't. If you can get military people to believe that only you care about them, if you could get certain groups out there to believe it doesn't even have to be true. You just got to say it. And people will tend to believe it, and now they're going to fight for you. So during the Reagan administration, there was something called the Fairness Doctrine. And the Fairness Doctrine would have that if you were on a news broadcast, back when there wasn't a million different news channels and broadcasts and podcasts and different things to choose from, you basically had 3 major channels, ABC, CBS, and NBC. And I believe this also applied to radio. But if you were a news organization and you had an opinion on one side, you had to counter it with an opinion from the other side. So that way the American people can listen to both sides and then make their own judgment. So that sounded pretty damn fair. If you go by the name of the damn law, was the Fairness Doctrine. But that was not good enough for the Reagan administration and Newt Gingrich. So like, no. We want to shape our own narrative. We don't want fairness. We want to go out there and we want to do our own thing, because we have now come up with this plan and this idea that if we continue to say things over and over again that are not true, then we could get people to believe us and get more and more voters that way. Because if the other side counters what we have to say, that makes it much harder. So they got rid of the Fairness Doctrine. Fast forward to now the injection of Fox News. Fox News comes along and they are the quote unquote fair and balanced channel. They were the ones who were going to be the Fairness Doctrine channel, if you will. They were going to be the ones that told you the real news, because the Republican side hated what you hear the term mainstream media now, because they thought that there was a liberal bias. And in some respects there might have been, because there were a lot of these people that came from higher educated places. And I'm not saying that to be disparaging. I'm not saying it to be mean. I'm just saying, if you look at the statistics, more educated people vote for Democrats than less educated people. That's just a fact. So anyway, Fox News comes along And they started off gradually putting their wheels in motion of being a propaganda network for the right. But it got worse and worse over time. And then, during that time period, they started filling their news hours, 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock, the primetime slots, with nothing but opinionated news. The Bill O'Reillys, the Tucker Carlsons, the Sean Hannitys, Jesse Waters now in that time slot. And it has gotten progressively worse and worse and worse. And now we have people that are watching people like Jesse Waters make jokes about a potential president of the United States getting sexually assaulted. And these are now the people that we are drawing into the political discussion. These are the people who thought professional wrestling was real at one point. These are the people who can easily be suckered, and by innuendo, they could be suckered by people on TV who appear very smart and they appear very knowledgeable about the subjects that they're talking about. So they believe everything that comes out of their mouth. And now you expand it to people, real stupid people like Joe Rogan and Tim Pool and far right-wing Charlie Kirks and Nick Fuentes. These guys who come out and say whatever they want to. I brought up a million times, we talk about the media and people saying on the right, you hear this on the right all the time, we're not allowed to say anything anymore. Bullshit. Listen to these podcasts. You could say whatever you want now and not get in trouble for it, because there's no ramifications to it. There is no sponsors pulling out. These sponsors, if you are sponsors of these shows, you know what you're getting on these shows. So you could call it free speech, and right, sure, that's why we have free speech. And guess what? No Democrats coming in. There's no policy or anything like that is coming in to take that free speech away. So in fact, we can say way more now than we used to be able to say, and not because of the government. It's because people were held more accountable back then. If you said something outrageously crazy like our future president may be sexually assaulted by generals, you would have been, before the next commercial break, you would have been out of there. So now you can basically say whatever you want. And because of that, we now have people like Mud Boss who are sending me ridiculous things about Headboard Harris and Wad Swallower Walls. So that's how I want to address that. I'm going to wrap up the show by getting to the last few comments. If you want to fit any in, you can. So we didn't believe in Joe's performance then. He showed it. It was a bad performance. There's absolutely no question about it. I still contend to this day Joe Biden won the debate. What do you think of that? Well, how's that possible? How did Joe Biden win the debate? Because if you put it on a transcript and you just read the debate, Joe Biden's the only one who actually talked policy. Now, you're going to read some things and go, what did he just say? What is going on here? Donald Trump, if you just read everything he said, everything was a batshit crazy line. He was unhinged the entire debate. So if you read it on paper, Joe Biden wins. The only thing that Trump won, or at least he thought he won, was that he got Joe Biden knocked out of the race. And they were all celebrating that, thought it was great, until they saw the Kamala train, and they can't stop this train right now. They have no idea how to stop it, and they're trying to build some brakes. And right now, he needs to go, there's just like the manufacturing jobs that Donald Trump was going to bring back. He can't find any manufacturers to build any brakes to build to stop this Kamala train. But anyway, Angel North is here. Hey, Angel, great to see you. I hope everything is going well in Alaska. I know there was a lot of heavy winds up there, and I hope you're being safe. But then why did Tim Walz clean Vance's clock today? Oh, you know what? I'm glad you brought that up. I got one last clip I want to play. The difference, they were both at the, what was the International Federation of Firefighters, something like that. I'm sorry if I got that wrong. But the contrast between the reception that Tim Walz got and J.D. Vance got. Let's take a look.
Well, good morning. I know you got a lot of important business to get through this week, but I do want to say how grateful I am and what a privilege it is to stand in front of this group.
Semper Fi, guys. We got some, it sounds like we got some fans and some haters. That's okay.
First of all, calling the guys in there haters, again, poor choice of words, but that's JD Vance. He's continuously using poor choice of words. He just can't seem to get it right. Guys under a lot of pressure too, I suspect, because if the polls continue to go like they're going, Donald Trump might have to make one of those choices and use his famous line that he used on The Apprentice, and that's "you're fired." And, you know, I'm sure there's people in his ear saying, hey, we got to replace him with maybe RFK Jr., which, spoiler alert, that's not going to help you either. That's not going to help move the needle. RFK Jr. is not. Tulsi Gabbard, I absolutely promise you, is not going to help you move the needle. But they might be stuck with him, and he's trying his damnedest. He's going out to every single event he could go to, and every one of them seemed to be a disaster. But Angel, thank you for reminding me of that. I appreciate that, and I appreciate you coming in. I say bots. Lots of bots are creating those comments. Purvey more division, but there's a human entity behind it. 100%. Twitter is a mess. Since Elon bought it, it is a complete disaster. Not just the community as a whole, but also the purchase of Twitter is going to go down as one of the biggest debacles in the history of purchases. Elon Musk has lost tons of money on the purchase of Twitter. And, I hope at some point he's forced to sell it, because he has absolutely ruined Twitter. I mean, it is absolute garbage, and he has ruined it. Wish the media was like that. I have firsthand account of CRT in my community college a few years back. Well, yeah, CRT is taught in colleges, nowhere else. So I don't know what the problem is. If you elected to take that course, then that's on you. Nobody's forcing you to take any CRT courses. I'd say the Democrats cannot speak against another Democrat, which is weird. Why is that? What are you talking about? You just told me that Nancy Pelosi is the one who got rid of Joe Biden. She's the one who came in and spoke up against him. I think what we're seeing is a unified Democratic Party, which really, I don't know how long you've been following politics, is not necessarily what happens in the Democratic Party. But right now you're seeing a ton of unity because A, they love their candidate in Kamala Harris. It is clear the way they glow about her, the way they talk about her. They are excited about Kamala Harris. And B, they know the threat of Donald Trump becoming president again. That's it. I mean, so when there is a huge threat, when somebody is coming into your neighborhood and they are attacking everybody in the neighborhood, individuals start to get together with the neighbors, even though you might not like the neighbor, or maybe you might disagree with the neighbor. We're all going to get together and stop that attack on our neighborhood. And that's basically what you're seeing here. So it's not a matter of not being allowed. I mean, and let me ask you, not being allowed, what happens to you if this happens? And give me a case in which the precedent of this has happened, where if you speak out against a Democrat that your career is over. In fact, that happens on the Republican side. Ask Adam Kinzinger, ask Liz Cheney, ask Mitt Romney, ask a lot of these people who have come out and talked against the leader and the king, and they are ostracized from the community. Ask them. Little philosophy. Need more people in here, but not crazy people like these comments you see. I'm more happy with people who want to have a civil discussion, not like Mud Boss 3822 or whatever his number was. It was the firefighters. Yes, Angel, thank you for that. All right, I'm going to let you read these last two comments and then I got to go. It was given to me. We were forced to, I'm not sure that's something maybe I was referring to earlier. And then finally, Lil Philosophy. And again, I do appreciate you coming in. I say the unity in the left is due to people like Pelosi. They cannot allow others to speak up. Biden said he wanted to stay. Can't speak up against the strongest Dem in Fed. I disagree with that. I don't know what you think happens to somebody in the Democratic Party if they speak up. Again, there's no precedent for that, but forced on CRT. But we'll discuss that again. Again, little philosophy. I appreciate you coming in. You're a good person, and bring some fun comments to the show. Angel, I really love seeing you. Thank you for coming in. You've been around for a long time, even back with my old podcast. So I really appreciate you following me over to the Black and White show, or Black and White with Brian Rundle and Londa Quest. Lana will be back with me live on Tuesday night. As I said before, I might be trying to pump out more. What the hell am I trying to say? I'm losing my mind. More content. So we could maybe try to get some more people on the channel, get more subscribers. I told you, man, it is not easy trying to do everything I can. I'm trying to learn some more things and see what we could do to get the channel going. But everybody that participates with us now, I do truly appreciate it. And I hope you join us again on Tuesday. Hit the notification bell. I might be back on during the weekend, just on a quick show. We might review the interview with Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, which will be coming on in about 10 minutes. And please like and subscribe and share and all that bullshit. You guys know it's been on the scroll the whole show. So thank you guys again so much. And I will see you guys next time. Thanks again.